There is news to talk about with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Legend of Zelda series producer Eiji Aonuma recently conducted an interview with Famitsu, and I'm going based off an article posted on Kotaku, who quotes Eurogamer as the source of the translation. But Eiji Aonuma told the Japanese publication that he, quote, has done everything there was to do in this incarnation of Hyrule. He later goes on to say that, quote, I feel like we've done everything we can to create fun in that world. Now, before I even get into my opinion about whether or not I'm excited about the fact that there's no DLC, or if I'm upset about the fact that there's no DLC, this generally comes as a surprise. And I think it's kind of surprising everyone in the community because Tears of the Kingdom has been such a successful game. It was the most anticipated game of 2022. Fans got their hands on it, and everyone has had nothing but positive things to say about this game. And there's been a lot of recent first-party Nintendo titles that have received DLC that come typically in a couple waves, sometimes even more. You know, I think about Mario Kart 8, who's got 8 waves coming, and that was a game that was released on the Wii U. Breath of the Wild, that was released in 2017, got 2 packs of DLC. Age of Calamity got 2 packs of DLC, even though that's not first party. That was a Zelda game, so that kind of continued the trend. Pokemon Sword and Shield got 2 waves of DLC. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is getting 2 waves of DLC, so that's really been a trend that Nintendo has been using to capitalize on dollars for games that they've produced. You know, it turns a $60 game into a $90 game, and for Tears of the Kingdom, it was the opportunity to take a $70 game to a $100 game. Now, there's 2 ways of looking at this. You know, the folks who are pleased that there is no DLC coming, and I think that they're validated by the fact that, yeah, Tears of the Kingdom was a $70 game. This is the first-party Nintendo title that had been released at that $70 price point. The fact that there was no DLC somewhat communicated the fact that they spent extra time fleshing out this game. There wasn't really any need for additional DLC. I mean, I know myself included, I think my map tells me I'm like 60 some odd % completed in the game, and I don't think that percentage includes Korok seeds. I know I've got almost over, I've got somewhat over 300 hours of gameplay in Tears of the Kingdom, and I can still fire up the game, search for Koroks, complete side quests. There's still things to do, and I'm still enjoying going through the game, looking at the lore, looking at all of the things that Tears of the Kingdom has to offer. I'm still enjoying the game 300 plus hours into it. So, you know, the fact that they don't feel that they need DLC is a testament to the amount of love and labor that went into Tears of the Kingdom. But at the bottom line, you know, it's still surprising. There is certainly a part of me that wishes there was DLC. I would have happily given Nintendo my money to explore whatever new story points or things that they wanted to add to the game. There's a lot of unanswered questions and certainly a lot of things to explore in this iteration of Hyrule, and more specifically Tears of the Kingdom, that I would have enjoyed going through. So for example, maybe they had done a story point where they had talked about the ancient hero, or they would have done something that allowed us to spend more time on the Sky Islands, because that certainly felt like an underutilized portion of the game. Digging into the connection between the ancient Sheikah and the Zonai, because there's almost certainly something there, and I do have a video on it, link in the description below. And then also, I mean, even going farther back in time than that with the origins of the Zonai, you know, there is a ton to the timeline conversation as well that pretty sure that Nintendo wants to push off to the side. I really don't think that they're too concerned with the timeline anymore, and Tears of the Kingdom is a clear example of that. But one of the other things, and you could make this argument for Breath of the Wild as well, and then when we got the DLC, it didn't go down this route, but they've clearly flushed out the past, the ancient past that we get to see in the memories. You know, they built a model for Hyrule Castle, and they built several rooms within Hyrule Castle that we don't actually get to see in the game. There was more to the Forgotten Temple. The Mother Goddess statue that's in the Forgotten Temple is no longer there. The Great Plateau was completely decked out. They removed all the snow. Apparently that portion where Mount Hylia is wasn't snowing in the ancient past. So they certainly did some animation and world building in Tears of the Kingdom that we never get to see. And so for them to simply push that aside and not allow us to explore it the route that Breath of the Wild took was they had a third-party game developed, and I'm sure they were able to use a lot of those assets because in Age of Calamity, we did end up getting to see what Hyrule looked like before everything was wiped out. So we got to see Castle Town, then much of the other buildings and civilization that existed before the Calamity came and tore everything down. So there was a lot in Tears of the Kingdom, especially in the ancient past, that was worth exploring. And unfortunately, based on this most recent interview and quote by Eiji Aonuma, it doesn't seem like we're going to be able to explore that. So now that we have confirmation for the most part that the DLC is not coming, that begs the question, what's next for the Legend of Zelda series? Now, I would not be surprised if a third-party game does pop up using this engine and using the world of Tears of the Kingdom. I'm sure that even though they don't have plans now, Nintendo does have a track record of saying we have no plans to do something, and then pretty shortly afterwards, something popping up. And so they've been caught in the past kind of lying about that, and that's typically fine because when those announcements come and those things are revealed, it's met with nothing but excitement. Ultimately, I really wouldn't be surprised if we get a third-party game that uses the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom engine and assets, and we get a new storyline, and it won't be canon. It'll be something that'll be interesting to explore, but it won't be canon. The story of Age of Calamity, that's not canon, so that would be interesting. The other thing, though, is now that we've been told indirectly that the team is not focused on DLC, I'm just hoping that the next Zelda game doesn't take 6 years to make. We got Skyward Sword in 2011, 6 years later we got Breath of the Wild in 2017, and then mid-2023 we received Tears of the Kingdom. So it's been this 6-year development cycle. And understanding the challenges of building the engine that ultimately served Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom was the reason for the 2011 to 2017 gap, and then you had COVID-19, which certainly disrupted the development, going from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom. I make less of an excuse for the transition from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom because the assets were, for the most part, already there. The world and the engine was already built, and I understand, okay, mechanics, and of course COVID-19, but certainly 6 years seems like a long time to be getting Zelda games. So next for the Zelda series, my hope is that we can get a mainline series game within the next 4 to 5 years. If it can go no longer than 5 years, I'll be pretty happy about that. So what about you? What do you think? Are you disappointed by the fact that we're not getting DLC, or are you excited about the fact that now the team can dedicate their time to taking a break that I'm sure they're needed and then getting to work on the next Zelda project, the next mainline Zelda title in the series? Let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed this discussion. If you got something out of this video, I really hope you consider subscribing to the channel. I certainly will cover Zelda gameplay, Zelda theories, Zelda news, Nintendo news, and other things in the future, so stay tuned for that. If you wouldn't mind liking this video, that would help out the channel a ton. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble about my favorite game in the Zelda series, and we'll see you in the next video.